Biggest takeaway from this budget, any which way you look at it, is the major tax relief that has been announced for the middle class. The biggest since the year 2005. So if you earn up to 12 lakh rupees a year or approximately 1 lakh rupee per month, you will have to pay no tax. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has made the big bang announcement during her budget speech, where she said that income slabs and rates are being changed across the board to benefit all taxpayers. What does this essentially mean? This means the middle class will have more money in their hands. This will help them save more and even spend more, and will also spur household consumption. Hina.
Well, absolutely, Madhav, and let's now take a look at the tax slabs. In fact, income up to 4 lakh rupees per annum, there is going to be no tax. So this threshold limit has actually been increased to 4 lakh. It was 0 to 3 lakhs earlier. Apart from that, from 4 to 8 lakh rupees, there's going to be a tax of about 5%. Now, this is under the new tax regime. Between 8 to 12 lakh rupees, now it's going to be, around 10% as far as the tax is concerned. Between 12 to 16 lakh rupees, 15% tax, and between 16 to 20 lakh rupees, 20% tax rate, and between 20 to 24 lakh rupees, 25% tax rate, and above 24 lakh rupees, 30%. But this 12 lakh exemption, in fact, one can say that has come for people earning up to 12 lakh rupees. It's actually going to benefit almost all tax slabs, not just those who are earning 12 lakh rupees annually.
So about 1 lakh rupees is perhaps the amount that could be saved across the various slabs. We'll break that down. We'll also look at what it means in terms of standard deduction, what it means for those who are the salaried class. But first up, let's get a sense from the ground. What's the response to this budget? We have our reporters across the country who are in fact joining us at the moment. Let me begin with Chennai. Varshini is joining us. Varshini, I believe you have some taxpayers, some citizens with you. What's the response to the Viksit Bharat budget, as we're calling it here on Times Now?
Madhav, if you see, this is something that people are extremely happy with. They are very welcoming at this point of time with the budgets. Let's try and get the exact emotion that people are feeling right now. Excuse me, sir. So the people who I have spoken to so far say that, they're very happy.
I'm going to let you round up a few people around where you are. I believe Imran has some people with him. Imran, over to you. What's the response on ground in Bengaluru?
Well, absolutely, Madhav. It's been a fantastic budget, especially for the middle class, and we have two people here. If you are in Bangalore and if there's no techie in your bites, and it's a possibility, we have who's from IT industry, and she's a YouTuber. She runs a music YouTube channel there. So first, coming to you, 12 lakh rupees, no tax. What do you think about it?
I have to check though what is my current CTC so that I will know how much is saving I'm going to get it. But definitely 12 lakh it's a good amount. Maybe okay, I must have crossed the bridge, but there are many people they are aspiring to get into the industry, and all the new people, whichever the industry they are. So I hope it will be beneficial for all of them.
A lot of memes were there, a lot of criticism from the IT guys, especially on internet about finance minister before earlier. But now you are happy with the budget?
I have to see that one the fine print because yes, definitely I'm happy on the very top level, but as I say that one only at the end how much exactly I'm going to get saved. So that is going to really give me whether I have to meme myself or I have to meme whomsoever it is.
Details, fine prints, what you're saying. You run a YouTube channel, a successful YouTube channel about music. What do you think about the budget? What is your take on it now?
Yes, this should be a good breather for all of us.
Right.
So I have started this channel in 2020. So I'm yet to get this monetized. So I will not be able to give the after effect of this. But definitely it's a good move by the government.
Thumbs up to the finance minister from Bangalore, both from the IT sector, people in the entrepreneur, for the finance on the budget, Madhav.
Interesting, and in fact for gig workers also, Madhav, there was an announcement that came in. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Thank you, Imran, for that. But let's quickly now go across to Ritik as well, who's joining us live from Kolkata. Ritik, over to you. Tell us what is it that the people of Kolkata have to say. At least the TMC is not very happy. They are calling it stepmotherly treatment. But what about the people from Kolkata?
Well, what we are getting that, however, the political dispensation here in Kolkata, they are not quite happy. But we are currently bringing this live broadcast of from the busiest, gully of North Kolkata. We are currently at Kolkata's Hathi Bagan area. We have many Vadroloks over here. We keep, chatting with them, and they are quite happy the kind of tax rebate they are getting. Dada, please tell us, this year, this tax rebate, what is your take on this? How you are seeing this?
Yes, after a long years, middle class got a huge tax relief, and we are really happy about that. It was a long pending demand of our middle class section that we are not getting earlier. But as a senior citizen and as a pensioner, I also expect some relief from the pension part that would be exempted, but that was not announced. Anyway, I am very much happy.
All eyes were fixed today's budget. What is your take on this? The kind of middle class will be benefited by today's, budget.
It is no doubt to that this type of budget, this type of privilege which government gives us, it is definitely reflect in our economy and it is reflect our normal life. I hope it will.
Let me quickly move on to Mumbai, where Nilesh is also joining us. Nilesh, over to you. What are residents of Mumbai saying?
Well, it was a historic budget presented by Nirmala Sitharaman, the 8th budget presented by her. We are reporting from BSC, the financial capital of our country. So we'll just cut across to the ladies here. Ma'am, what is your take on the budget?
As a woman and from the middle class sector, it has been very good, and after a long time we have had so many benefits, especially for the salaried class. So we are hoping that this will be the budget in the years to come also, and because of this budget we have a lot of cash at disposal to run our household and for other purposes also. So we are very happy about it, and a great budget for us.
A great budget. Ma'am, what is your take? Middle class for long have been waiting for tax exemption. Finally your demand has been met.
Yeah, it's a great budget as a significant benefit for a middle class family. The increase in the limit of the exemption is 12 lakh. So it is a great budget for the middle class people to save their money and consume in other sectors. So it was a great budget by the PM and Nirmala Sitharaman, who has think about the middle class people and gave a great relief to them.
Sir, your take on the budget?
I am happy with the budget. This is a budget for salaried person, I will say. Especially lower middle and middle class people are benefited, and the benefit goes from few thousand to few lakhs. And my expectation was that there will be some relief in LTCG and STCG, as most of the people are coming for investment in stock market and mutual funds. So that expectation, I hope the finance minister will consider.
Will soon be met.
Yeah.
What is your take on to...
All right, thanks so much for those ground reports there. Let's cut across live to Mr. N.K. Singh, a man who wears many hats and has, of course, very closely been associated with our entire financial system. Mr. N.K. Singh, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Your response to this massive tax slab reform that we are seeing, how do you see this impacting on India's economy?
Well, I certainly see it very positively, but I think that I'd like to make three very brief comments. First and foremost, that no doubt our focus is on this huge, massive tax relief, on recalibrating the tax slab, but I think that we must also recognize that she has achieved this remarkable feat of a major restructuring on the tax slabs, along with the adherence to the commitments on the fiscal consolidation roadmap. If you look at the macroeconomic statement which has been presented, she adheres not only to the target of 4.5% for next year, but going beyond that, I think that in terms of the debt trajectory, expecting India to really reach around 51% of the debt, which will have a very positive impact on the rating agencies and the ability of India to garner private investment, both domestic and capital. So that was the first comment. The second comment which I have as a broad comment is that if you look at the multifaceted nature of this budget, it certainly goes far beyond the issues of taxation. I think that to mention a few, on agriculture, the emphasis on various agricultural initiatives, particularly on achieving self-sufficiency on pulses, on incentivizing the changing consumer taste to fruits and vegetables and to fisheries and animal protein, will be a major change in terms of the consonance of what healthy agricultural practices would require, while increasing disposable income to agriculture. The third broad comment which I have, and I'll stop there, is that for enabling India to accept the cutting edge of technology, we recognize that we will have to look to new sources of energy. So I think that the most important initiative in being able to catalyze nuclear power, in terms of having modular nuclear power, this is a very, very major change in the law which is proposed to be brought about in making renewable power available and affordable, enabling India both to meet the requirements of the new technology and move quickly towards an era of renewable energy.
Okay, interesting. Mr. Singh, just one more question before we let you go. Any one thing or one idea perhaps whose time had come, something that the finance minister could have announced in this budget, given the kind of economic situation we are in right now?
So I think that perhaps we must view the budget in conjunction with the economic survey which was presented yesterday, namely the response patterns in the light of geopolitical uncertainties. Namely, although it is impossible to predict the uncertainties, what should be India's policy response to the higher tariff increase and to other kinds of announcements being made by some important centers? What could have been the response pattern to mitigate and minimize the risk? Perhaps could have deserved some mention by the finance minister, even though I must say, and I will end with that, is that Trump may have thought of making America great again by tariffs. Modi had thought of it earlier by the clarion call for Atmanirbhar Bharat in multiple ways. So in a certain sense, we had thought of this before Trump or the United States could.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. N.K. Singh, for joining us and sharing with us your views. Let me quickly open this out to our panelists who are joining us. Monica Hallan, let me bring you in as far as the entire issue of tax is concerned. Interesting that the tax slabs that are at 12 lakh, if you actually look at it, including the standard deduction, there will be absolutely no tax or zero tax until 12.75 lakhs, because there's also the standard deduction of 75,000 that will have to be included, particularly for the salaried class. And that's an overwhelming majority of those who pay taxes. Can you break that down for us, please?
No, absolutely. Look, the increase in the slab is something which, because of the way inflation has been for the, it's an annual thing, these slabs hadn't really substantially changed. So I think the relief to every tax slab, every part of that population who's paying taxes has been substantial. So, so somebody who's earning 12.75 lakh only and not a rupee more will pay no tax because of the standard deduction. And then somebody who's that earlier limit of 3 lakh is now at 4 lakh. So the slabs have also increased, and I think the tax saving is there for every income level. Right? So even somebody who's earning, say, 24 lakh, that tax saving is 1.1 lakh a year. It's, these are substantial numbers. And the important thing for me is that it actually is putting reasonable purchasing power in the hands of a middle class family in India, while even the upper middle and the rich. Right? So that spending power is going, and how they react to it. And the third thing is that there is something called animal spirits, even within the households. If you feel sad about what's happening to you, you see the cash transferred by every political party, you see your tax burden, you begin to feel sad about your life because you're the one caught in this net. This makes you feel a little happy, and when you're happy, you might go and spend. So whether it is split between savings and spending, the impact is positive on the overall economy, definitely.
Okay, so it's going to be a bullish response. Hina,
absolutely. And it's going to cost the government, by the way, about 1,000 odd crore rupees. Correct. That's what they have mentioned in the budget document. I'm going to come to my other guests as well in the studio in just a bit. We have to quickly go across to Adhil Shetty of bankbazaar.com, who's also live with us right now. Good afternoon, Mr. Shetty. Thank you for joining us here on Times Now. From the world of corporates, how will you rate this budget of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman? The middle class definitely is giving it a thumbs up. What about the corporate sector?
So I think on the MSME side, right, and that's obviously been very important because it creates jobs. It's 36% of India's manufacturing. There have been some significant benefits. So number one, the credit guarantee scheme, it used to be 5 crores for MSMEs. That's been doubled to 10 crores. And that is expected to increase the credit delivery of about 1.5 lakh crores to MSMEs. So I think MSMEs are very happy about this point. This started during COVID. Now the credit guarantee limit is doubled, and getting 10 crores in total from 5 crores today is a big deal. As far as startups go, the first fund of funds was a 10,000 crore allocation from the government. The FM said 97,000 crores or 10x that has flowed to the startups via private sector putting in its share via the fund of funds. Now she said there is a second fund of funds with another 10,000 crores, and this again will be multiplied 10x with the private sector. So I think the startups are liking what they hear. There was obviously no cut in corporate tax rate. However, we also were happy to hear about the investment in digital public infra. So last budget speech, FM spoke about DigiLocker and improving DigiLocker. This year she spoke about Central KYC and investing and improving Central KYC. We want to see the same focus on digital infra that we've seen on physical infra. So that was also heartening to see from the innovation side.
All right, Adhil, but net from the budget, of course, there are, of course, a number of expectations that you had. But in terms of its actual impact, because a large number of panelists have been saying that in terms of spending, in terms of the economy, this is going to have a huge factor. In fact, Monica Hallan just mentioning the animal spirits, which really would increase spending. Do you see all of that kicking off from here on?
No, I do, right? Because, when we were talking pre-budget, we said, let's, do one of the three things. Let's increase the slab, let's reduce the rate, let's increase the rebate. And all three happened. So I think that's what everyone is excited about. The slabs went up by inflation, the rates have effectively gone down, and the rebates have increased. Now 1.1 lakh in my hand on a 25 lakh salary is a 5% increment. That's great. The government of India has given us 5% more in our pockets, which is a big deal.
Thank you so much, Adhil, for joining us. Let's also cut across live to Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, who's the DG of CII. Mr. Banerjee, thank you so much for joining us. Massive impact of this huge tax slab change that's going to be felt. What are your first takeaways from this? Because that's clearly the biggest announcement in this budget.
Yes, indeed, and when that was also the biggest expectation, and I would think that the expectation has been more than fulfilled when we look at the bolstering of consumption, consumption, as you know, is a major part of our economy, and that also leads to a phenomenal relief to the middle income group, the lower income brackets, relief, plus also saving and consumption. All these leads to a very stronger, very much stronger economy, which is very encouraging. And I see that to be one major takeaway from the budget. But there are so many other areas which the budget has touched.
Okay, interesting. Mr. Banerjee, like you started by saying expectations have been more than fulfilled. So I want to ask you, as the Eco Survey also suggested that, when it comes to infrastructure development, which is very important for us to meet this goal of Viksit Bharat by 2047, the funding from the government side alone is not going to be enough. It needs support from the private sector. So with the announcements coming in today, especially this boost for the middle class as well, do you think the private sector will also begin losing its purse strings and will also start looking at expanding their capacities?
Yes, of course. There are, of course, we've seen this with the rise in the consumption and consumption demand. Automatically, there will be private sector expansion. Private sector has started expanding with fresh investments, but this will really create a huge opportunity for them to also come in. Second, of course, government has done phenomenal heavy lifting on capex over the last few years, and we see today also capex going into the states being given this 50-year interest-free loan, and many ways that it has been being brought in. The involvement of the states itself is going to be critical, because one of the things that in the budget we heard was ranking of the states in terms of investment destinations. All of these promote a healthy competition and makes it easier for business to come in. The entire focus on ease of doing business and decriminalization, which is being continued and re-emphasized in the budget itself, makes it the private sector an environment conducive to greater investments.
Well, that clearly should be music to the ears of the government, isn't it, Madhav?
Absolutely. And in fact, thank you so much, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, for joining us. Let's go across now to Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, who's the chief of Biocon. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, thank you so much for joining us. Ma'am, big announcement, of course, is the tax reform. Is it something that you were expecting? It's been a demand for quite some time now, but it's finally happened on ground. Your response to that?
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of positives in the budget. One, of course, was the tax relief that the middle class has got. I think that was very, very welcome. I think I was very, taken with the announcement of the 20,000 crores budgetary allocation for innovation. And I'm keenly looking forward to seeing the details of how that money is going to be deployed, because I think the finance minister very correctly pointed out that, innovation has to be the path forward, where private sector has to basically invest more in innovation. So I really think that was welcome news. I think the exemption of customs duty on many life-saving medicines was welcome. But having said that, I hope it extends to GST relief also, because if patients have to benefit from cancer medicines and rare disease medicines and chronic disease medications, then it shouldn't just stop at customs duty. It has to also extend to indigenously manufactured drugs. But overall, I think the budget was very reassuring, but I think we also have to look at the budget in context of the geopolitics and geoeconomics of our time. And that's where we will have to read this budget in conjunction with the proposed regulatory reforms and the new income tax bill, which of course everyone is keenly awaiting. So I think that is something which I think we should be very pragmatic about, because there is a global slowdown, economic slowdown.
Yes.
And India has to be very competitive. India has to be very compelling. And I think ease of doing business and getting more investor-friendly and investment-friendly policies is going to be very key for us to keep, progressing towards our strong economic aspirations of Viksit Bharat.
Okay. Ma'am, you've called the budget and the announcements reassuring. Did it evoke tareef pe tareef?
Well, I think some parts of it were. But I think we need to ask ourselves the question, have we done enough in the global context?
One thing perhaps that you felt was missed by the finance minister in her speech today that could have been announced?
Well, obviously, I don't want to say anything was missed because really the finance minister did cover a very large canvas, and I think some of the, she basically touched upon everything that was important, whether it was exports, whether it was innovation, whether it was agri-tech, whether it was women, whether it was healthcare. So I can't fault the budget in any way in that sense. But as I said, the devil is in the detail. Now, I would like to see what does that 20,000 crore investment in innovation mean? How quickly can a private sector avail of that? Similarly, I would like to see whether we are really addressing the needs of patients in our country. Because, these are expensive medicines, whether you import them or you buy them locally. So, has GST on those on these kind of medicines been missed? I have to read the fine print. So I think that's the way I look at it, but I welcome many aspects. For instance, this whole notion that, mini nuclear plants can be developed in the private sector is a very interesting thought for energy. And of course, the focus on medical tourism, health tourism, we need to really think about this in a very different way because India must position itself as a very strong member of global supply chains and a very strong investment destination for anything that we are really positioning ourselves for.
All right, Ms. Kiran Mazumdar, appreciate you joining us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective. Let's also, Madhav, go across to Anuj Bali, the tax expert who's been patiently waiting with us here in the studios. What is your first reaction to the announcements that were made by the finance minister? One thing you liked and one thing you perhaps didn't like?
I would not like to criticize the budget much because there is less to criticize here, right? Because see, what I observed after the budget is that people tend to look at Sensex and Nifty and how the investors have reacted. Now, what we need to understand is that India is changing. There is a large part of startups and MSMEs and the middle class guy who cannot react. You don't have an index to tell you how happy the middle class is. You don't have an index to tell you how happy the startup investors are, right? An allocation of say 10,000 crores for a fund for startups, I think this is also for the middle class. At the end of the day, this is going to create more jobs, right? So I would say that this is a very good budget and it's a very balanced budget. It might not have things for the big players or for the Sensex to indicate that there's a good budget for the investors. But I feel that it's a very good budget. It gives more disposable income to the middle class, and that's what I think really matters. From a GDP perspective, because the more disposable income you have, the more you can spend, it also increases the GDP. So I think it's a well thought out plan and I find it to be good.
All right, before I go across to our political panelists, thanks so much, Anuj, for joining us. Mr. Jagannathan, many would actually wonder whether this is something that was possible, whether it will actually happen. There's a lot of buzz about it, not just this budget, but for the past several budgets, whether there's going to be a big change as far as our tax structure, tax slabs are concerned. What do you think has driven this? Because many were also skeptical, thinking so early in this Lok Sabha, making such an announcement. Of course, Delhi elections are on, Bihar is there. Next year, there is, of course, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, several states. But is this something that is aimed at, political positioning? Is it something that is aimed, as far as economy is concerned? Is it about elections? What do you have to say about the timing of this?
I think no budget lacks a political element in it, and the Delhi elections are 4 days away. So obviously, and Delhi is the very big middle class city, so giving something makes a lot of sense. But what the finance minister is actually doing is that there have been several years where tax rebates, the tax threshold has lagged behind inflation. I've been advocating the need for indexation of the tax-free brackets and the tax slabs, but they haven't done that because I think politicians like to decide when they choose to do so rather than when inflation hits you. So that is the main thing I see. But there's one more point I'd like to make. This is a very good thing for the economy for one simple reason. This is a 100,000 crore benefit to the middle class, right? So what it means is, assuming if you are going to save 15 to 20% of your income from additional income, 80,000 crore is the stimulus in the economy, because the rest is going to be spent. And it is going to help the markets. I don't know why the markets are shying away from the problem. SIPs are going to increase.
Do you think maybe they were expecting something about the capital gains tax?
No, but they have not been hit at all. The capital gains is just as they wanted something down maybe. But
in fact, even though the fiscal deficit target has been revised downwards,
exactly.
I mean, we are all
so they should be happy actually.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think on Monday probably they'll wake up. Today they are not sure what it is.
All right, let me bring in Ajay Alok as well of the BJP. Thanks so much for joining us, Ajay Alok. What do you have to make of what Mr. Jagannathan is saying? He's saying that no budget can be taken away in terms of the political impact that it will have. Is this aimed as a timing of it, politically speaking, is it significant according to you? Ajay Alok.
Well, if you say the political impact, we are doing it after the Lok Sabha elections, and the next Lok Sabha election is on 29th. And if you say that Delhi elections are around near, so the middle class relief, no. That's not the case. It has been in the pipeline. See, whenever the government makes a budget, we are always focused on how to create a Viksit Bharat by 2047. And the three most important components were demography, democracy and the demand. And you have to incorporate all these three components together. And this budget is a complete reflection of the need for our demography, for strengthening our democracy, and of course to increase the demand, because the more the demand is, the more the GDP goes, the more the economy grows, and that's how come the Viksit Bharat. There are different components altogether. If you see the defense component, the very alarming thing about defense component, in spite of increasing 40,000 crores only in the defense, we are increasing the internal production for defense, and we'll be generating revenue from defense, and the target of the revenue is almost 75,000 crores, which is a significant improvement. Because for the last 70 years, we have been importing only defense. We have not been selling. So this is the sign of strengthening of the Indian democracy and Indian pillars. In terms of infrastructure growth, now there is the next 3 years dedicated corridor for every ministry to formulate a plan and incorporate private sector into infrastructure development into PPP mode. So automatically the capex inflation of the country grows by many folds if we have kept it last year at 12.5 lakh crore. By doing this, we aim that with the help of the private sector, we can increase it up to maybe 20 lakhs crores. So these are all signs where we want to take India in 2047.
Okay, let me bring in Tehseen on that note. Tehseen, the big tax slab announcement, capex is going to continue to be high, says the BJP spokesperson. It's a budget that is for a Viksit Bharat. Your response?
Naturally, friends from the BJP and all middle-class Indians are cheering the tax cuts, something I've been talking regularly on Times Now. So congratulations to the Honorable Finance Minister on that. That will put money in the common man's hand. But I am slightly right of the economy. I'm the only opposition guy who's slightly right. I would have wanted more tax cuts. I'm disappointed the corporate tax has not been cut. If you actually want manufacturing to go up, you actually want investment. The investment climate in India is not that good. In fact, you're seeing money leaving India. If you want Indians to invest in India, you should actually have a corporate tax. So your highest income tax slab should be in line with your
many
corporate
head
tax.
shaking over there.
Now,
Vivek Srivastava doesn't agree with you. Vivek Srivastava?
If they are relegated to JNU, I'm not going to
let him.
I'm not left. I am right to
Quick response from Vivek Srivastava. Quick response before we toss across to Navika. Vivek. All right, Navika Kumar is joining us. I believe she has...
Us right now is Salem Dharanidharan, who is national spokesperson of the DMK. We also have with us Professor Jyotsna, national spokesperson of the TDP. Good afternoon to both of you and to my guests in the studio here. Salem Dharanidharan, to you first. Many are appreciating the bonanza that the middle class has got. Do you also give this government a thumbs up for biting the bullet and giving this kind of a tax relief to the middle class?
I think it's very funny. Do they think that I really don't know numbers, or they don't know numbers, or they think people don't understand the numbers? The fact of the matter is, who is middle class? If you have 1 to 10, number from 5 to 7 is middle, right? So 50th percentile to 75th percentile is middle class, not just in India but across the world. That's the middle number, right? So what is the median per capita income of this country? 1.8 lakhs, right? And people earning 75th percentile is about 2.5 lakhs. You have made no income tax from 8 lakhs to 12 lakhs. That is people in the top 2 percentile to 3 percentile, which is about less than 1 crore population. It's about what? 0.75%. That's the actual number. So if you have to help the middle class, right, the real bottom 90% of the population, then What you should have eventually done is reduce the indirect taxation, because for last decade or so, that there was no taxation for people earning less than 8 lakhs, 6 lakhs, 4 lakhs, right? So what actually we needed is to help people earning less than 5 lakhs. What then you should have done? Reduce indirect taxes. How can you reduce indirect taxes?
Professor Jyotsna, you agree with Selam Dhanidharan there that you actually needed to cut indirect taxes, and this is actually helping the rich. It's not helping the middle class or the poor. You agree with him there?
10 more seconds. 10 more seconds.
Madhav, I think I'm surprised because they have a problem if if the corporate tax is a cut. They have a problem with if the regular middle class man has has a smile on his face. They have a problem with everything. Anyways, I don't want to get into whether Mr. Salem is correct or somebody else is correct. That's his perception. But as per my perception and as per the perception of majority of Indians today, it is a people's budget, Madhav. I'll have to tell you, because it's just not about taxation. You have to see the amount of money that has been put, that's been, allocated, whether it's for health sector, whether it is for research, whether it is for education, whether it is for things that probably were not considered earlier, I would say. Probably, I think 2014 se pehle, ya uske baad bhi thode bahut saal. But now, Madhav, my point again is, 6 sectors, because we all have to talk about this. And again, I'm not just limiting myself to taxation, because all of us know, yes, majority of the Indians, whether Mr. Salem accepts it or not, but all of them are happy, because obviously most of them fall in the criteria up to 10 to 12, which is important, which is very important, Madhav, I'll tell you. But there are 6 sectors, very important 6 sectors that actually, today we see transformative reforms in those sectors. We call it alternative energy, the power, the mining, the urban development, the financial sector, regulatory reforms, again, one of which is taxation.
Okay, so and let me bring in Selam. Ultimately, the point is this, that, you're ignoring the fact that this is going to be a huge amount of disposable income that, whoever is earning that money, the salaried class in particular, can choose to spend, can choose to invest. That just puts more money, not just in their pockets, but also in terms of the spending increase. And that's going to spur a huge demand within the economy itself. Why are you discounting that?
No, Madhav, I am someone who strongly believes in putting money in hands of the poor and the middle class and majority of the population. But the point is, the definition of who is middle class is the problem here, because this tax cut is only going to benefit less than 1% of the Indian population. That is the problem here. If you actually want to help and increase the consumption of the economy, then you should have increased the taxation.
Tehseen, you agree with that? It's going to help a very small section. It's not the middle class. It's actually the upper middle class and rich is what he seems to suggest.
No, it'll help the salaried class. In fact, if anything, it'll help the salaried class to create investment. This has to be seen in perspective with other schemes that have been put in. For example, the second house that if you choose to invest in, your rent is tax-free. So you will have the middle class now with this disposable income looking at getting a second house. I, in particular, what I'm disappointed with, and I do agree with Mr. Salem on one thing, which now you have to push. If you want comprehensive investment in India, which is all our aim, then you have to have GST reforms right away.
But for that you have GST Council.
Yeah, but BJP has a major weightage in that, so you have to have that. GST should be only 2
Sumit, quick response from Sumit on that as well, because you're a tax expert. Do you agree with what Tehseen said?
I will spare the GST thought because that sounds more politically rhetoric. But for just coming back on the middle class, I think the benefit is aimed at different sections of the society. One is a gig economy worker who are earning, let's say, from 30,000 rupees to going all the way to 1 lakh rupees a month. That, and in fact, just few minutes ago, Prime Minister Modi also said that that's also the target section of the beneficiary, right? The second is look at the salaried class people, right? This provision, this change is going to put a lot more money in the hands of the young professional entering the job market. Yes. And that's where the consumption demand will get affected.
All right. We're going to leave it there.
House property change that has happened, that is also a significant change. If you come to think of it, the moment you allow the 2 house properties to be tax exempt, it's giving a lot more disposable
income. All right. Sumit Singhania, Tehseen Poonawala, Mr. R. Jagannathan, as well as Professor Jyotsna and Selam Dhanidharan. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and breaking this down for our viewers. We're going to continue with our coverage of the Viksit Bharat budget, as we're calling it here on Times Now. For the woman from Hina and me, it's a wrap.